In 1945, American forces entered an abandoned complex in Manchuria. What they found inside defied all explanation. They found operating tables with dark brown stains still dried onto the metal surface, the kind of stains that do not wash off. Glass jars lined along the shelves, human remains preserved in formaldehyde, each one carefully labeled like specimens in a science museum. They found a still warm incinerator. The ash inside had not fully cooled. Something had been burned here only hours before, and then they found something none of them could explain. Hundreds of small shoes lined up neatly along a corridor. No owners. No explanation. Not a single person who had ever been brought through these gates was still alive to speak. Not one. This is their story, and the story of what human beings can do to each other when no one is watching, and no one is ever punished. To understand how this place came to exist, you must first understand the world that created it. In 1853, an American naval fleet under Commodore Matthew Perry appeared off the coast of Japan. He did not come to negotiate. He came to force Japan to open its doors, after more than 200 years of self-imposed isolation from the rest of the world. The Japanese saw those iron ships, and they felt something shake deep inside them. They were living in the 17th century, while the world had already entered the 20th. The Japanese refused to fall behind. Within 50 years, they transformed from a feudal nation into a modern military-industrial power. In 1895, they defeated China. In 1905, they defeated Russia, shocking the entire Western world. It was the first time in modern history that an Asian nation had defeated a European empire on the open battlefield. The world took notice, but that speed came at a cost. Extreme nationalism, a military that dominated politics, and a belief that grew louder with every victory, that some races were born to rule, and others were born to serve. That ideology was the soil where Shido Ishii planted his seed. Shido Ishii was not a madman pushed to the margins of society. He was the complete opposite. He graduated from Kyoto University, the most prestigious institution in Japan. A trained physician, intelligent, persuasive, and deeply respected. After World War I, Ishii traveled to European battlefields and spent months studying the remnants of chemical warfare. Millions dead or permanently disabled from poison gas. He returned to Japan with one clear conclusion. Biological weapons were the future of modern warfare. And Japan had no program whatsoever. In 1925, nations signed the Geneva Protocol, formally committing to never use chemical or biological weapons. Japan signed it too, and immediately after signing, Ishii walked into his superior's office and told them, "This is exactly why we need to develop it, because everyone is doing it in secret." The Japanese military agreed. But they needed 3 things to make the program work: a secret location far from Japan's borders, unlimited funding with no oversight, and a steady, reliable supply of human test subjects. In 1931, Japan seized Manchuria. In a single move, they had all 3. You do not know what day it is. You lost track of time a long time ago, but you remember the sky that morning. Pale gray, low clouds, the kind of winter sky in Harbin where your own breath turns to white smoke. Your name is Mei Lin. You are 21 years old. Your father is a carpenter who whistles softly while he works. Your mother bakes every Sunday morning, the smell of butter filling the whole house. Your little brother Wei is 14 and always steals the bigger piece of bread. You repeat these things in your mind every single day, not because you fear forgetting, but because the place you are about to be taken to will want you to forget, and you will not allow that. The men who arrive in your village that morning are not soldiers. They wear white coats, not uniforms. They carry medical bags, not rifles. They say they are here to do health checks, to prevent disease, to protect the people. Your father believes them. Most people in the village do. Who would question a man wearing a doctor's coat and carrying a stethoscope? You do not believe them. There is something wrong in the way they look at you, Not into your eyes, but through you, as if measuring something. They begin separating people into groups. Children here, women here, men over there. No one is allowed to leave. One man from your village tries to run. The shot cracks through the cold air. He falls before he reaches the corner. After that, no one runs. No one speaks. The only sound is the wind and the rustle of paper as names are checked off a list. That is the last time you see your father. They push you toward a truck with no windows, no explanation, no destination. Inside the truck, it is dark. Bodies pressed against bodies. Someone is crying quietly. Someone is praying. You try to count the time by your own heartbeat because there is nothing else. No windows, no sense of direction, only motion. When the door finally opens, the light is so bright it feels like a physical blow. You step out into a place that does not look like a prison at all. From the outside, it looks almost ordinary, like a hospital or a university campus. This is Pingfang, 24 kilometers south of Harbin. 6 square kilometers, 150 buildings. Official name, Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwantung Army, Unit 731. You will never leave this place alive. The first man who speaks to you does not ask your name. He hands you a small piece of paper with a number written on it. 3,847. His voice is flat, bored, like he is reading a warehouse inventory. From now on, he says, this is your name. In Japanese, people like you are called maruta, logs. Not patients, not prisoners, logs. Even your barracks are called the wood storage building in official documents. Someone sat down at a desk and designed these cells, calculating the exact minimum space a human body needs to stay alive without enough room to stretch its arms. Your cell is so small you cannot straighten your legs fully. The walls are bare concrete. The floor is cold stone. There is a narrow slit in the door, big enough for a guard to look in without opening it, not big enough for light to get through. On your first night, you cannot sleep. Not because of the cold, not because of the hunger, because of the silence. The kind of heavy silence that exists in places where noise has been systematically removed for a long, long time. Then you hear it. A faint voice from the other side of your wall, speaking broken Chinese, slowly, carefully. Are you okay? She asks. Her name is Oksana. She is 19. She is from Ukraine. She was taken from a farm near the Manchurian border. She has been here 3 weeks longer than you. Long enough to know the sounds, not long enough to stop being afraid of them. You talk through the wall every night. Not about this place. No one wants to talk about this place in the dark. You talk about other things instead. About her mother's sunflower field in Ukraine. About your father's woodworking shop in Harbin. About what summer looks like there and how it is different from summer here. Anything to remind yourselves that the world outside still exists. Morning in Unit 731 begins with footsteps. You learn to recognize each kind. The patrol, steady, never stopping. The food cart, faster, with the clatter of metal trays. And the third kind. Slow, deliberate footsteps that stop in front of each door, one by one. Those are the worst. Every morning, a voice reads out numbers. Those numbers stand up and follow the guards. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they do not. The ones who return do not talk about what happened. You learn very quickly. Do not ask. Do not stare. Do not let someone else's terror drown your own. 3,000 people work at Unit 731. None of them are forced to be here. Many wrote letters asking to be assigned here. They arrive with glowing recommendation letters from famous university professors. They go through orientation, learn procedures, and eat lunch together in the cafeteria. Staff retention is high. Few people ask to leave. Many volunteer to stay longer. The first time they call your number, your heart skips a beat. You stand. Your legs move even though your brain is screaming at you to stay on the floor. They lead you down a long corridor, past heavy metal doors and thick pipes, into a room too bright to feel real. Today, they only take blood. A lot of blood. More than you have ever seen taken before. The doctor never looks at your face. He looks only at the numbers and the bottles. His handwriting is neat. Blue ink, straight lines on white paper, like this is just a routine checkup. In that moment, you understand something terrible. To him, you do not exist as a person at all. He does not hate you. Hate would require him to acknowledge that you are human. For him, you are simply not. That is more frightening than hatred. In the weeks that follow, you begin to hear sounds from the far end of the hallway. Not screams. You imagine screams. Reality is worse. Short, cut-off noises that do not belong to anything you have ever heard in ordinary life. Historical documents about Unit 731 describe the experiments in categories. The first category, infectious disease research. Prisoners deliberately infected with plague, typhoid, cholera, syphilis, anthrax, not to find cures. To watch the disease grow inside a living body from the very first day to the very last breath. When the infection reached the stage where the organs needed to be observed, surgery was performed while the person was still alive. No anesthesia. Officially, because anesthesia might affect the results. Years later, a Japanese doctor would anonymously tell a reporter about his first time doing this. He knew it was over for him, the doctor said. He did not resist when we tied him down. But when I picked up the scalpel, he started screaming, the doctor said. I cut from the chest down to the stomach, and he screamed in a way I had never heard before in my life. Then he stopped. The others in the room kept working. For them, it was just another day. For me, it was the first time, and it never left my mind. That is the testimony of the man holding the scalpel, not the person lying on the table. The person on the table left no testimony at all. Winter in Manchuria can fall to -40 degrees. To Dr. Yoshimura Hisato, that looked like the perfect natural laboratory. Japanese soldiers were losing fingers and toes to frostbite on the front lines. Yoshimura wanted to understand exactly how human tissue freezes and decays. Prisoners were marched outside on winter nights. Their bare arms or legs were soaked with water, again and again, until ice formed solid all the way to the bone. Yoshimura would tap the frozen limb with a stick. If it made a dull wooden sound, he knew the freezing was complete. Then came the thawing, the part he described as the most valuable for observation. He recorded how quickly flesh separated from bone at different temperatures. He took photographs of every stage. After the war, this data was handed over to the United States in exchange for his freedom. Some procedures in modern flight suits and cold weather gear still draw from these findings. One night, Oksana asks you through the wall, "Do you remember what your face looks like?" It is not a question about beauty. It is a question about identity, about whether the person you see in your memory still exists at all. There is a technician named Nata Ishibashi who sometimes works the night shift in your block. He is not like the others. He does not look through you. Sometimes he actually looks at you, and for a moment, you see recognition in his eyes. One night, you and Oksana ask him a question through the door. "Can we have a mirror?" He does not answer. He stands there for a very long time, then walks away. The next day, he returns. Without a word, he pushes a small mirror through the slit in your door. He handles it like it is the most dangerous object in the entire compound. In a way, it is. Because for people who want you to be 3847, nothing more, a mirror is a weapon. It reminds you that you have a face. You and Oksana take turns looking. You recognize yourself, thinner, paler, something in your eyes broken, but still you, still Mei Lin, the girl your father called in for dinner every evening. Still the sister who fought with Wei over the bigger piece of bread. Oksana cries silently. Her shoulders shake, but no sound comes out. You do not cry. You stare for as long as you can, as if you want to burn this face into the deepest place inside you, somewhere no one can ever reach. Inside the walls, you do not know what is happening outside. Starting in 1940, Shido Ishii decides that laboratory experiments are not enough. He wants to test his weapons on real villages. Japanese planes drop bombs filled with fleas carrying plague over Chinese towns. At its peak, Unit 731 produces 143 million plague-infested fleas every month. Prisoners inside the compound help raise these fleas, their own infected bodies used as living incubators. Agents from Unit 731 hand out poisoned candy to hungry children in villages. They leave infected clothing at public wells. They pour cholera into reservoirs at dawn, when the chemicals in the water are weakest. After each attack, teams dressed as medical relief workers arrive in the dying villages, not to heal anyone, but to take photographs and tissue samples from the people they have just poisoned. Historians estimate that around 400,000 Chinese civilians die from these campaigns. The true number may be higher. No one on their side was counting. Inside the compound, 3,000 ordinary people come to work every day. They go home at night, eat dinner with their families, ask their children about school, then come back the next morning. One Kyoto University professor, Nakagawa Yanzo, will later testify. Some experiments had nothing to do with medicine or military needs. It was just professional curiosity. What happens if we do this? What medical purpose, he asked, is served by studying decapitation cases? It was just a game. Professionals also like to play. That is the most horrifying part of Unit 731. Not a few insane monsters, but thousands of ordinary, educated people doing this as their daily job. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo will run the Stanford Prison Experiment and find that when people are given total power over others with no oversight, they become cruel very quickly. His experiment lasts 6 days before it must be stopped. Unit 731 runs for 9 years. In August 1945, Japan surrenders. Ishii orders everything destroyed. Documents burned, equipment smashed, every remaining prisoner killed before the army retreats. Those chimneys you saw on your first day here burn day and night in the final weeks. Somewhere in that smoke, Mei Lin and Oksana disappear. Ishii is captured by the Americans. The Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal begins in 1946. Many Japanese leaders are tried, convicted, executed. Ishii is investigated and then released. In exchange for what? For everything Unit 731 learned from 9 years of human experimentation. The United States wants that data, and they want to make sure the Soviet Union does not get it first. When American scientists finally read the files, they discover that most of the data is scientifically useless. Years behind their own research. Tens of thousands of people have died, not for science, not for military necessity, but because someone wanted to see what would happen. Shido Ishii returns home. He lives comfortably in Tokyo. He dies in his bed in 1959. He never spends a single day in prison. The story does not end in 1945. Many former Unit 731 scientists go on to become professors, hospital directors, respected researchers in post-war Japan. Some help found a pharmaceutical company called Green Cross in 1950. One of the biggest in Japan. In the 1980s, Green Cross sells blood products contaminated with HIV to hemophilia patients, and keeps selling them even after learning the risk to avoid financial loss. More than 3,000 Japanese people are infected with HIV. Many die. The same pattern repeats. Monsters who are never punished go on to create new victims. In 2018, 73 years after the war, the Japanese government finally releases a list of names of people who worked at Unit 731. Not a list of victims. A list of staff. The victims have no files. Most of the people who died inside Unit 731 are still nameless today. In 1981, Nata Ishibashi stands in a Tokyo court and finally talks about the mirror. I gave them that mirror, he says, but I could not save them. They died horribly, like so many others. I still hear their voices. Only later does he learn exactly what happened, when he hears colleagues discuss an experiment involving 2 young women, one Ukrainian and one Chinese. Both, he says, were vivisected, used for experiments, died on the operating table. That is all history records of Mei Lin and Oksana. One line in a testimony, and a mirror whose fate no one knows. They did not ask for food. They did not ask for medicine. They did not ask to live, because they knew better. They asked for one thing, to see their own faces one last time. In that moment, holding that mirror, they won. Not against the system, not against the war, but in the only way still possible. They refused to become just a number. Where you are right now, watching this, you know your own name. You know what day it is. You can walk to a mirror and see your face whenever you want. Do not ever treat that as something obvious. Ishii never went to prison. Yoshimura was never tried. Most Unit 731 staff lived out their lives without facing a courtroom. When crimes on this scale have no real consequences, what lesson does that teach the next generation? And looking at our world today, do you think history is repeating itself? Tell me in the comments. Do you believe ordinary people can become monsters if the system around them allows it? Or do you think there is a line some humans will never cross? And if this story mattered to you, share it. Not for the algorithm, but because the people who died here deserve to be remembered. All the events in this video come from public historical records, testimonies from the Tokyo War Crimes investigations, declassified Unit 731 documents, and Nata Ishibashi's 1981 statement in Tokyo. This is the story of at least 10,000 people who died inside the walls of Unit 731, and hundreds of thousands who died outside them. Most of their real names are still unknown. If you made it all the way to the end, you remember at least 2 of them now, Mei Lin and Oksana. Do not forget them.